All right. Broadcast. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, final session of the summit. This is it. Rachel, we are closing it down. We are closing it down, and we saved one of the best for last. Rachel Vallarelli. I've spoken with her on the podcast. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pumped.
Oh, I am so pumped too. I'm so pumped to hear what you've got to say. We had mostly male goalies, on the program, on the summit. We had Lindsay Munoz, who spoke, was the only other female goalie. So it's great to get some female representation because you know what? There's a lot of female goalies attending the summit. So this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So if you're here, let me know. Let me know. I know it's late out there on the East Coast, and if you're here, throw your name in the chat. Let's see who we got. We got Jilene, goalie mom, Heather. Hi. Awesome. Say hello. A couple housekeeping items. There's a Q&A box down below. So if you think of a question as Rachel's going through this, put that in there. We'll do a Q&A at the end. All sessions are being recorded. I'll send out an email after this, and you guys can check that out. Bryn, Rowan, and Bobo all said, Leah, yeah, all right, this is awesome. I think that's
sorry,
about
technical difficulties on my end.
No, you're all right. You're all right. Crystal is hyped. I'm hyped too. TJ and Ella, goalie. Cool. And then the only other thing I got is we're giving away 2 Lexi Shields, a little protective device to protect your head. They're sponsoring it, and they're going to send out 2 winners. So I'll pick 2 winners at the end. Positional aspects of goaltending. I'm pumped. Let's get into it.
All right. So thank you so much for having me. I think I already said that though. So all right. So a little bit about me. So I play women's field and men's box. So we're going to go over a little bit of being a box goalie too, just kind of what helps and what doesn't, but really sticking with field for the most part, and then just kind of seeing some stuff. I'm a girls director for team Tri-State. I'm a college coach. I played at UMass and I did pretty well there. I hate talking about myself, so I apologize. And I've been in the Team USA system since 2010, which makes me feel kind of old, when I was on the US U19 team. And I also own my own business called RV Lacrosse LLC, just doing some private lessons, clinics, camp, that kind of stuff. So, and I've been, really lucky to have tryouts with the New York Riptide and have some opportunities in the men's box realm, and then women's pro as well. But yeah, let's jump into it a little bit here. So we'll chat about gear really quick, kind of go over that, some positioning, stance, and angles. We'll do a little film review. That's where the box stuff will really come in. Go over some communication, mentality, and fitness. And then I know you guys, if you have any questions or anything like that, you can put them in the text box as we go through. But if you have anything at the end too, feel free to ask. So big things on gear. So I know we might have some guys on the call too, right? So you got to have, you need a helmet, throat guard, mouth guard, gloves, right? Some people use goalie gloves with that thumb. I actually prefer to use field player gloves and then get that Evo shield and mold it to your thumb. I think that works a little bit better, and then you have a little bit more mobility. Although maybe that's not the way it's supposed to work. I don't know, but that's kind of my go-to. And then women's goalies or girls goalies, till you graduate high school, you have to wear shin guards and padded shorts. Guys don't have to do that though, which I won't get too into it. I don't know how I feel about there being a difference. I think it should probably be the same either way, whatever people decide. Box stuff obviously is way. I'll show you guys some stuff later. You have legs, these giant pants, uppers, big gloves. Everything is about 2 to 3 times the size of hockey goalie gear, which is kind of funny considering I'm 5'4" and I look huge in it. All right, so really focusing on some field positioning, stance, and angles. I'm kind of rolling it all into one here quickly. So everybody's taught differently. Everyone has a different philosophy. And with any other goalie that has been, any other awesome goalie, really, they're all great that Damon brought on here, right? That we all play differently. I think that's what's really awesome about this. So there are some non-negotiables though, right, of being a goalie. So, but here are a couple things that I've heard, some things that I do, some things that are not the world's greatest, right? So I tend to have my back straight, like feet, shoulder width apart. Right, you want your hands and arms extended out, but not fully. So the best advice that somebody gave me at lacrosse camp was like, you have a goalie ghost friend in between, right? So you don't want to squish your friend, but you don't like them so much that you want to give them a ton of space. So that's really kind of my rule of thumb there. Eye thumb is another big thing to make sure that you're not dropping your stick head, right? We don't want to have that double coverage, right? Some people have a slight lean forward with their back. Again, everyone's built differently, has different strengths, opportunity areas, right? So everyone plays a little different. Right? Some people play with their legs really wide out and are really tall, and they can do that. Right? Some people have like they bend and they go a little below parallel, right? So some people have a slight knee bend. Some people stand pretty upright. Some people bait, right? And non-negotiables, obviously, you always want to face the shooter, those kinds of things, right? So, and then quickly going on to stepping, right? So there's the tried and true, which is, you know, stepping at that 45-degree angle and attacking the ball that way, which is fabulous if you are like Dylan Ward height. But for me at 5'4" and 3/4 of an inch, it's not the world's greatest, right? I don't get pipe to pipe. So for me, I step flatter, and I do what I need to get pipe to pipe. So as long as you don't step flat, completely flat, or backwards, that dependent, you know, looking at kind of your overall style of play, that's what I think is an A+ on my part, right? And then arc play, some people have a 3-step if they're really, really tall. Some people have 5, some people have 6. Again, it's all really preference. And the more that I've played box, and I'll get into it too a little bit, I've really relied more on a 5-step arc, which is kind of interesting and cool. All right, so here's some quick little videos on stances, saves, and proper step technique. Pardon the pictures and everything. My dad did take them, so I give him credit. He did a good job, but just in case. All right, so here's one, right? I'm pretty balanced standing here. My stick is a little bit above the top of the goal, which isn't the world's greatest thing, right? But for me, that's eye thumb, and just making sure that my hands stay there and they don't drop. Also, if they drop a little bit, then they're within that, in the cage. So for me, it's something that I've found that's worked. So here's an option, right? So some people play really, really tall and they have their stick way above the cage, right? Some people squat down really, really far. When I was younger, I could play like this with my hands lower and still move to the ball really well, as I've realized that some stuff does not really stick and work anymore. All right, so some people also have their stick pointed out a little bit. I know I have the string king one, so you can, it's not as detrimental as some other heads when you do this, but if you have your hands that far out, the attacker can see behind your stick, right? So you always want to be nice and balanced. Here's another really bad one. My dad took the picture at the opportune time when my mouth was wide open, but stick is back really flat and you see a lot of the cage, right? We want to make ourselves as big as possible where we're athletic, we can move, and we can make those saves, and we're taking up our angles really, really well. And that really does half the job. Here's an example of double coverage, right? My shoulder's already covered. Does it hurt when you get hit in the shoulder? It's not the world's most pleasant feeling, especially when I go from box where I have full gear and then I go play field. But honestly, you're already taking up that space anyway, right? So to have your stick there, you're just making yourself smaller in cage. So I go back to making yourself nice and big. So here we go into stepping and getting our hands, our head, our eyes, everything behind the ball. As you can see, I'm in a really good alignment here. Right, everything is all square to what would be the shot, and I'm going about it that way. Same thing on the other side. Pardon the angle, with my dad taking these pictures and everything in our backyard, but head, eyes, hands, everything is straight out. I'm looking up at the ball and I'm pretending that the ball is in the middle of my stick. I always tell kids to think about it like you're, maybe it's easy for me, I'm an only child, right? So my parents like to put pictures of me playing or anything like that up and around the house. And I always tell people, pretend you are the favorite child, and that the best save ever that you've ever made, perfect form, everything, is going to go up in your house in the biggest spot for everybody to see. That's how you should pretend, right? Or that's how you should go and make those saves. I kind of call it something like posting for the picture, right? Now physically, I mean, I am for this, right? But it's just something to kind of keep in mind. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Technical difficulties. I swear I'm good with this. I've done these before. All right, same thing on these hip saves, right? You want to get your head, hands, eyes, everything behind the ball here, and make sure you're covering as much as you can. Same thing off hip, right? So you can go over or under here, right? My biggest thing was going over, and everything kind of depends on, too, right, how you're built, if you're really flexible or stuff like that, right? So how you lean over to make that save. For me, I have short-ish arms. On more legs than torso, right? So everyone's built differently. And for me, I like to lean and come over the top to make those off hip saves. And that's something that works for me. But some people really prefer coming under, and that's totally fine too. As long as you're getting your hands out all the way and you're getting your head, hands, eyes, and everything behind the ball, then you're going to be doing everything that it takes to make those saves, not just in warm-ups, but the amazing saves that everybody looks at when they're watching like the PLL right now. I mean, I'm watching it too, obviously not right now, but right. Everyone sees these great saves in the PLL and they look really acrobatic. They didn't just one day go, okay, I'm going to throw my foot out and make a save that way. It comes from this stuff. And then you realize as the ball's coming to you that you make those adjustments last second, right? So I always strive for proper form and everything and technique. And then you can get to making those awesome saves once you've filled in all like these gaps here. Same thing with low shots too, and we'll get past me blabbing and all these pictures. I promise I got some other stuff too. You want to get your head, hands, eyes, everything over the ball, right? As you can tell too, the stick is not in between my feet. Well, I mean it is, but the lip part of the stick is not where my arches of my feet are, and I think that's really important. Some coaches teach to have or allow goalies to have the bad habit of having their stick all the way back by their heels. And that just makes you really off balance. You want to act like you're sitting in a chair and really change those levels and get over the ball and have those hands away from your body, almost thinking like it's like a tabletop position for your back. And then same thing, stick side and then off stick low as well. You can really see here, like I'm sticking my butt back and I'm getting my hands all the way down. I'm like doing the motions with my hands on a Zoom call and nobody can see. So I'm going to try to stop doing that.
That was really great. I mean, nobody in the summit so far has like broken down pictures like that, and it's really cool to see. Like, here's different examples of stances. Here's some stuff that you shouldn't do. Here's some stuff that you should do. I thought that was great. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I always thought like I learned by like seeing and hearing and kind of like discussing it. So I was like, okay, how can I do that in a Zoom without me drawing this elaborate picture and taking too much time, right? So, so yeah, here's a drill that I really like to do. It's nice and simple, and this was my big like quarantine. I did some Zoom goalie sessions with kids, and I actually got the opportunity to work with somebody in England, which was really cool. But this is something you could do no matter where you are. You can use objects, books, things like that. Because some people didn't have access to cones, and then Amazon was back ordered for like God knows how many weeks, right? So I call this the 6-cone step drill. You could use 4 cones, you could use 8 cones. It doesn't really matter. I've just kind of found that the magic number for me is 6. So I start off here. I have the cones spread out. So if you're new to it, I would recommend starting right at having them at 6 feet. If you feel really good or you're really tall or anything like that, or you feel like you're getting better with it, I would try to widen them out a little bit more. This is going to force you to really drive your legs. And I'm really big on telling all my goalies I work with to overemphasize what you're doing, right? So if you're in warmups and you're making a save and you're kind of going through the motions, you're like, yeah, I got my hands there, I made it, right? You want to really get your hands, head, eyes, everything behind the ball. And it's the same thing with this drill to really drive and extend your body. I'll show you as I talk. I have that bad habit, right? So as you go through it, reset yourself, punch your hands out. As you can kind of tell as I'm moving, I have this up at a 45-degree angle. I don't step at a 45, but again, I'll go to overemphasizing, right? There might be times where You have a goalie that steps a little bit backwards when they go to make a save. I've seen a lot of righty goalies that step backwards when they step to that left side. And a drill like this really helps to break that habit, because most of the time you don't even know, because you're making the save and you feel good. And you're like, I'm making the save, coach, and you kind of realize, you know what, there's a couple things here. Maybe they're flaring their foot out, that kind of stuff. Again, if you overemphasize in a drill like this, it's really simple. You're not seeing shots. You work on punching your hands and getting out there. And I break it down by going high, then mid, then low. Another thing that I want to talk about too is, right, your hands take you to where you want to go. Yeah, I kind of do a little body lean as I'm going through it as well. But at the end of the day, my hands are what's propelling me forward, and then my legs are following through. So what I was taught when I was younger, and I kind of just implemented a little bit, was act like you're punching something, right? I don't condone violence, so think like a heavy bag or something like that. But if you have that motion of punching, here, I'll go back a little bit too. Right, if I drag it, so I'm set, hands are going, and my hands and then my front foot are driving up on that 45-degree angle. Again, I don't step like this in a game, but I force myself to do it in practice situations, so that depending on how quick the shot is or anything like that, I get my body there. Hands are all the way out. I touch here, and then I follow through, right? And I do that little like bunny hop. Again, I'm not 6 feet tall, so I think that that's part of it. But I'm a big fan of the one-step hop. I know that's a relatively new thing in women's lacrosse, but it's always really kind of been a guy thing. And when I was younger, I used to watch like Scotty Rogers. I would watch, well, I mean, he's still playing, so that's great, right? I would watch, I'm blanking on his name. I will get back to it. But
What school? What school? Maybe we can help you.
Cuse. Why am I blanking? He's playing. Yeah, there we go. I'd watch him, right, and just see how like little, fast, quick, right, great outlets. And I took those elements of the game, and I was like, okay, this is entertaining. And not that women's lacrosse isn't. I love it, right? After playing box, though, I'm like slowly and steadily, I'm like converting. I like the men's game, but it's the women's stuff. Unfortunately, like I wish that girls lacrosse and women's lacrosse was on TV more. It would get more exposure, because if it did, I think there'd be so many more young girls being like, I want to play like this female goalie, right? Like you have so many great goalies, and if we had that stage, I think it would be the same thing. But besides the point, there's my little plug on women's lacrosse needs more exposure, right? But you pick up things as you go along, and I think that that's something that is huge in the game too. And like I can talk about it all day, but seeing who you want to emulate and kind of working through it and being like, okay, this works, right? Whenever I work with any goalie, I say, I want to make you the best you, not the best Rachel, right? Because Rachel's already here, I'm here, and that's fine. And there's stuff I do, I still have bad habits, and that's okay. Well, I mean, it's not okay, but like everybody's human, it happens. And I'm here to make you the best, whatever, insert your name in here, right? So all right, so we have some angles here. I used my dad again for this one. So we stood on one of the only fields that was open by me, which was great, and did this. So it's a rope, and it's around my dad, and then he has a monopod with a camera. So he's taking pictures of me, so you can see all the angles here. And then just to preface a little bit, sorry, I'm wiggling around in my chair over here. To preface a little bit, so it's in between every line on, so it's not every 8-meter hash, it's like all the in-betweens as well, just to really break it down. Again, I don't step that way, but I think it's really cool to see all the different angles depending on where the attacker is. And it's around my dad's waist, not around like the camera or a stick or anything like that. So you can see here, it's just a really good tool, one, to kind of see angles and where you should be and stuff like that. But there's so many young goalies that just get tossed in the cage at the youth level, and they're like, I want to play, coach, I want to play. And then you only warm them up, and they're seeing shots straight away, and then they get into a game, and it's like, okay, the game doesn't just occur from the sides of the crease in this like really long area. It occurs all over. And angles are something that is they're so important in the game. Especially I'll show you some box stuff in a little bit too. Even more so important in that, right? But if you hold the proper stance and you're in the proper angle, you're going to make so many more saves. And I think that that's, like, again, I'm not even doing anything, but if somebody had the ball here, right, where my dad is taking that picture, right, they see just equal space on each side. I'm not giving them too much, right? So I think that that's really important to kind of look at and see. You know, I tend to play on the goal line too, just to preface that a little bit. And obviously, if I take some steps up, right, you wouldn't see as much of the net behind, which is really cool too, to kind of use the ropes for.
That was really cool. That was really cool. One thing I love about that is it teaches you like how far you need to move. I think sometimes in your head, like goalies don't realize like actually how close the pipe is. You know, like I don't need a 6-inch explosion. Like sometimes you don't need to move all that much. And that, you know, when you see
Yeah.
that what's it called, the string there, you get that in your mind.
Yeah. All right, so here's one baiting a little bit. So I love to bait. So here's just, oh, that was not it. I'm sorry, everybody. Got to put my mouse over the pause button. So this is just me normally. I do, if you can kind of notice, my hip is kind of shifted over a little bit. I do this normally whether I bait or not. I have my shin bone and my knee completely on the pipe so that I can push off as quick as I can. That's been, I think, like, if I could say my goalie superpower. I don't know, I think I have some good clears, but if I had to share like one of my secrets, like the secret sauce, it would be to put some weight on that pipe so you can explode off a little more, especially if you want to bait. And here's where the rope kind of helps a little bit too. So this is the 8 meter. So these, I only did them on the 8 meter because a lot of goalies like to bait there. So this is the first inside hash, and I like to play on the pipe. Now, I will say in college, this worked really great for me. And then I played my first pro game after not really playing for probably like 6 months, right? We had, you know, practice the day before, and then we went into it, and I played this way. And there were some really good shooters that, you know what, I got some pieces and they went in, right? And I was like, I can't bait as much. So I do want to preface it by saying, like, you got to kind of see how it goes a little bit and test the waters. And I like to, this is a phrase my mom gave me, but you want to really make sure like you're just utilizing the tools in the toolbox and adding tools to the toolbox as you get older. I don't recommend baiting right off the bat, although a lot of kids do it and they don't realize. That's why angles are so important to teach properly and equally. Make sure that there's equal space on each side of you, whether you're a righty or a lefty. But as you get older and you feel like, hey, you know what, I'm getting really good this way or that way, or, you know, however you want to phrase it. For me, my left leg was a lot stronger than my right. I've equaled that out. So for me, baiting really worked, right? So I would bait severely. So this is the first inside. This is the second inside. You can really see how much space an attacker sees there. Center, I would give a little bit. And then I would do something a little funky on this side where I'm like, all right, I'm still really strong on that left side. I want to push off, and I'd give a little bit more space. So this is a little weird. I kind of developed it my senior year, probably midway through my season at UMass. I do not recommend doing this for any young goalie or anything like that. But again, it's something depending on if my way of going about it, I guess, is I used to like to give, and I still do. If a shooter, I want to limit the amount of space that a shooter sees, right? So if you look at this image here, they see the entire right side. They see a little bit of 5-hole, and they see a little bit above my left shoulder. I know exactly where they're going to shoot pretty much every single time. Now, am I giving them too much? Probably, and I should shift over a little bit. If I'm being brutally honest about myself, I should shift over a little, right? My stick should probably be where that gaping hole is in the net, which has now been replaced since since these pictures were taken. But besides the point, right, I should probably shift over a little, but I know that whole side is where they're going to look to shoot. And if they're just going to step and shoot, right, I have a good feeling about I'm going to push off and I'm going to make that save. So that's where that comes from. I'm not completely insane, although all us goalies are probably a little bit off our rocker. And then again, if you're going to bait too, make sure that your foot is never past the pipe. So I'm really kind of, toeing the line here with that. But I wanted to make sure that my shin is on the pipe. That's why it looks like I'm a little bit over. And then again here, I just kind of widen out, make sure I cover that. And again, I want to limit the space. I know, hey, they're probably going to shoot that 5-hole and I'm going to drop on that. So that's why I'm playing that way. I see a lot of questions in there.
Yeah, we got some questions. So go back to the baiting picture, like one of the ones you had like in the middle.
Here.
Yeah. So in your head, this one's fine. You're sort of giving up a lot of your stick side. In your head, are you thinking, like, what are you thinking about when you're baiting? Are you basically, like, when they shoot, are you thinking, all right, I know it's going to go stick side, so as soon as the shot comes, like, I'm going to go stick side? That's one option, I guess. Or are you thinking more like, all right, I know I'm giving up a lot of stick side, but I'm still going to wait and see, like, where they shoot? Or what's kind of your mental process when you're baiting?
So it depends on who you're playing. I would say I always go with option 2, except for if I've played against somebody a certain amount of times and I know, hey, they always like to fake to that left side and then they want to shoot towards my right. Because there's a lot of attackers that, I don't think to any goalie on this call, right, that attackers have their like 4 to 6 places that they like to shoot, or their 4 to 6 moves and fakes, and then they place the ball where they really want to. So for me, it's just kind of realizing and like reading it in the moment, but also in the back of my head being like, you know what, I did my homework. I feel really confident, and that's where it comes from for me. Is I'm really going to put a lot of pressure on that left leg. I'm going to be able to push off, and I'm confident in getting my hands there that my stick I can cover that space on my left side with my stick in a little baby step where I feel more comfortable exploding all the way over to my right, if that makes sense.
Yep, got it. And someone asked, do you recommend baiting at the college level?
Yes.
Yep.
I really like it because for me, my senior year, I think like the way I looked at the scouting reports and stuff like that was people like to shoot in certain areas. And I would ask my coaches, I was like, hey, so when you're creating a scout, what games are you pulling from, let's say, I don't know, Richmond. I'll use Richmond as an example, right? Are one of our biggest rivals. And I was like, when you're pulling game film from Richmond, what are you looking at? And my coaches are like, oh, like the last, 3 games. A10 we played Friday, Sunday. So that Friday before, and then the 2 previous, like the weekend previous games. And I was like, okay, so I would look at that and I'm like, all right, if that's what we're pulling from, if that's what my coaching staff, like our coaching staff is pulling from, then that's what probably Richmond is doing too, or something very similar. So I would look at and say, where was I strong those past couple games? Where was I weak? And I felt really good my senior year in the fact that if they thought that they were going to shoot low, I could squat a little lower, right? And then they're like, oh man, she's really making saves low. I would pop tall, right? So for me, I kind of, my senior year, I changed some stuff up too. I played with a very flat back. I would suck in my stomach and really like brace my core. And then everything would be my legs and my hands. So I wasn't leaning over. I wasn't sticking my butt back. I did that my freshman year. I just kind of kept that flat back, and I would make myself as big and as tall as possible because I'm like, hey, I'm 5'4" and 3/4 of an inch. I got to take up that space. So for me, baiting was baiting off the scouting report, baiting physically like you see here, baiting. People thought I was 5'7", and then they'd see me at the field. They're like, this girl's tiny. What are you talking about, right? I would just try to make myself as tall as I possibly could in games and where I felt comfortable. And so that's kind of my little baiting spiel on that. I think you got to be careful though. For me, I developed like a really strong left leg. And then when I needed to make saves and really step and push off with my right, if you do it for so long, you can, just like anything else, like if you haven't lifted in a while or anything like that, you start to kind of atrophy a little. So just some things to think about is you really want to like be able to counterbalance that a little bit too. So you're not just focusing on baiting, because if, I don't know, if you get hurt or something like that, you want to make sure that you can kind of go back to like the basic tools as well. That was probably a little too long of an answer, but
That was perfect. That was perfect. Someone asked, do you bait more commonly in certain situations, like 8 meters?
yeah, definitely. I think 8 meters here, this is a good example of how I play those, just because I know where the defense is shifting to and where I feel comfortable. I think 8 meters as well. Like here, I know, where am I? Here, right? I would never play this way in a game. I wouldn't want to give that much space up. But I think looking at it strategically, right, you see that whole entire right side, and that's where that's the space that I want to give. Hold on. Okay, I'm okay. Sorry, my computer is dying. I want to make sure I'm good.
Looks like you got 11% battery left, so.
I know. I might have to. I might have to sprint upstairs real quick.
Yeah, there's more questions on baiting, but yeah, let's move on.
Okay. All right. So quick little film stuff here. All right. So here's some 8 meters into action, right, where you can kind of see it. Here she's on that second inside hash right there. All right. And I'm on the pipe and I just wait. And again, everybody kind of has that space that they want to shoot at the goalie, right? Everyone wants to go in that little inside pipe, especially in women's. That's what I found. So for me, I'm like, hey, I'm going to shift over a little. And again, something that I found that works for me. Some shooters, right, if they're really, really fast and they have an arm and they can snipe, it's not the world's greatest because they can just take one step off the line. But you got to be ready for that. Again, just some other things in here. I know I kind of have like mixed. This is some stuff from my senior year. Again, just like waiting, sitting and waiting is the best thing. Wait for that shot, read it, react. And again, just throw your hands there. Like if you read the ball the whole way, right, it's always good to have teammates that can point to tell you where the ball is. There's my teammate just sprinting down the field. Sorry about that. See, like read, react. Sometimes you get lucky. That one hit the top of the pipe, right? So again, sometimes shots come really, really fast and you got to do what's necessary and get your hands there. And again, look, like you watch my film too, and I'll talk about myself, not in like a it's all about me way, but I know how I play and things like that versus me pulling film from somebody else, right? So for me, I've always felt like I'll sit back and almost play a little bit more on my heels and wait and explode all the way over. And it's something that's really worked for me. A lot of goalies are very jumpy, especially in the women's game. And, you know, they tend to come off their line a little bit more. And I've, you know, especially too with box, which I can show some clips in that, right? You want to be, you want to hold and be as big as possible for as long as you possibly can. So for me, I've always found that if you're out of position, even just a little bit, it's better to wait and hold because attackers like to, you know, fake a couple times and you'll get lucky, or not lucky, but just kind of study well and right and keep your hands and everything nice and set. So let's skip ahead quickly. All right, so here's a good example of me baiting a little bit, right? So I'm on the pipe here from that pass from Taylor Cummings again, right? She's a threat. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. What did I just do? What did I do? I really know how to use this. I'm so sorry, everybody. If I can make you laugh this late at night, that's always great as well. So comedic relief. All right, again, hold. I know she wanted just going to put it in that spot because that's what I gave her. And I just decided I was more comfortable with that, or she's going to shoot it right at me. And I was feeling really confident that day. A lot of it too is if you're feeling slower in a particular day, you don't really bait as much, right? So there's certain stuff like that where some days I'm like, oh, I'm feeling great. And then there's other days where I'm like, you know what? Maybe I didn't have as much coffee as I should have. I'm a little step behind and I'm going to play it a little bit more safe. But shots like that in close, right? It's really important that you're getting your hands there, even if you just get little pieces. Hands are the most important part, getting there, and then your body behind, and it really does help, especially for that stuff in tight. Here's some stuff from behind too. Important positioning wise, right? Just kind of holding those 3 spots. Here's more recent stuff after I've played box. I think I feel a little bit more like I'm just gonna come out and play a little more, where in box you just kind of stand there and you waddle, and you shimmy, as I like to say, and you just kind of, you know, move your shoulders around. So I feel like a little bit more free, I guess, in these situations. But again, important why you lead with your hands. If I didn't, I probably would not have made that save. On that one, here's some box stuff. I do apologize for the film quality, but all right, so again, you see a lot of similarities to field. There's a 5-step arc, if you will. Right, step there, you step into it, you save. Sometimes in box, you have no idea where it is because you can't feel it. And then you clear it out. Right, so the goal is 4 feet high, and then it's 4 feet by 6 inches wide. But same kind of thing here, right? Lots of fakes. Again, just really staying nice and steady is super important. You step into it. Again, like holding and just making sure that you take up as much space as possible. Obviously, with box, it's a little bit easier. The gear does a lot of it for you, but going up and playing in Canada too, I mean, they realize stuff like if you, as you step to the ball, you automatically get smaller, and they'll pin it right over your shoulder. Or no, oh, she's going to step, and as she steps, let's hit her shoulder, and it will go into the goal. I mean, it's some crazy stuff. But again, I go back to just making sure you're nice and tall. Obviously, in field, you only have a select few people that are taller than the cage, right, that have to worry about these things. But you want to make yourself as big as possible, take up space, be nice and balanced, and explode to the ball. There's some more stuff here. I'll skip through a little bit. Yeah, you can hit people, which is fun in box. I do enjoy that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a violent person, I promise. But yeah, a lot of it's just like reading the angles, waiting, holding, making those saves, stepping into it. Oh, excuse me. There are people that say that box doesn't really translate to field. How's it going to help? Goal smaller, gear is bigger, but honestly, it's probably taught me a lot more about patience and waiting, because you have to, and they're going to find those little spots and little areas, and just being able to hold.
Uh-oh, did we lose Rachel? We might have lost her. Can you guys hear me? I think you can hear me still. Yeah, you can hear me. We'll see if she's able to come back. I think maybe her Mac died. That I saw she had 11% when but it's weird that she still has the video. So we'll wait just a second. Yeah, I guess sharing all those videos makes it go makes that last 11% go real quickly, huh? Let me see if I can. Hang on a second. We'll give her just a second to come back. And I'll tell you what, while we're here, what we can do is, well, she dropped out. So we'll see if she comes back. I'm going to do the Lexi Shield giveaway. We actually have 3 we can give away. So I'm going to do it like this. We're going to scroll. And we're going to stop at Kelsey Maxwell. And then we are going to scroll. And we're going to stop at Barbosa. So if that is you guys, email me at damon@laxgoalierat. We'll get you hooked up. And if you're paying attention, I said we're going to give away 3, and then I almost stopped at 2. So we'll go scroll. Leah Mastayer? Leah Mastayer. So congratulations to you guys. We'll wait just a second here to see if Rachel's able to join us. I hope that was helpful. What did you guys think about that? What did you guys think about Rachel's presentation? I know we got cut a little short. We didn't get to go to the questions, but I love seeing those. I love seeing the breakdowns of like the different goalies and those drills. So it was all good, all great. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining this summit. This was something that I had the idea for a long time, and just kind of emailed all of the coaches in my network, and just so grateful for all of the coaches that were able to volunteer their time. It's really a credit to them. I mean, everyone just volunteered their time, and Greg gave absolutely great presentations, and I saw a bunch of similar names for people to take who are attending each one, so that I know you guys were taking advantage. So that's awesome. That's awesome. We're definitely going to do a second one. So you guys have free access to the replays until Tuesday. So today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then we have a Lax Goalie Rat Academy, which I run, which is like a paid monthly membership site, and then they'll go in there. So the videos will be available for the Lax Goalie Rat Academy members, and I'll send you guys a special link to join that academy if you're interested. It'll have all of these training videos, but then all of the training that I've done. So full, breakdowns of how you make saves. And I got over 50 drills in there, and just tons and tons of goalie education content. There's a whole course on how do you string up heads. There's a whole course called the Goalie Backyard Sessions. So tons of awesome stuff in there. And looks like we got Rachel back. Let's see. Rachel, you back? There we go.
Oh, David, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're back. Can you hear me? We got you. I can hear you.
David,
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hold on.
How about now? We can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
There we go. Okay.
All right.
Sorry about that.
We're back. Was it the 11% battery, or was it an internet thing? We were all saying in the chat it was the 11%, went really fast.
Oh, yeah, it did, unfortunately. I was like, and then that was the fastest sprint that I've done in a little bit. So
all right.
I was like, all right, get up there, Rach.
That's what I like here, where everyone's like, we can hear you loud and clear. We got a bunch of yays. Hooray. Everyone's excited you're back. So where do you want to go? Do you want to go back to the slides? Do you want to go back to some Q&A? What do you want to go? Where do you think we should go from here?
Let's just do some Q&A, because I feel like I think it stopped at a good point anyway.
Yeah.
Stuff and everything. So fire away with questions or anything you got.
All right. Yeah. Well, put your guys' questions in the Q&A box. We'll start at the top. Anonymous. Where do your feet line up with the 8-meter hashes?
Oh, that's a good one. So, now I have to, I'm like imagining myself in the crease. So center, if it's the center, I think that's the easiest one to use. I shift over a little bit. So I want to say my right foot, if I drew a line from the 8-meter, like where that hash is, down the center, which is, I think, what the question is, my right foot would probably be maybe 3-4 inches off that line. Again, I'm not dead center, but I do want to shift over a little bit. So there's that like 3, maybe 4-inch gap from that imaginary line from where the inside of my right foot is, if that makes sense.
Yep. Love it. Kelsey asked a bunch of questions about baiting. So we said, yes, baiting at the college level. What about at the high school level?
I think if you feel confident and like you have that really good skill set and that base already. Definitely something like to preface too is you want to not like, you don't need to consult your coach per se, but to kind of imagine like and think about what your defense is. And I know there wasn't a high school season this year, or youth, which, you know, is super sad, even college, right? So and there's some club stuff going on right now, but I would kind of think about what your defense can and can't do and what they do already. I don't want you to think like down on your defense, but why it worked really well for me my senior year was for a couple of reasons. I had a really good lockdown defense, and we were all on a string. 2 twins, and then which they practically read each other's mind. We said somebody else was like the third twin, and then all the middies, we were all on a string. It was like magic. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was just everything clicked. And for me, I was like, I felt like I could do. I don't want to say anything, but I was like, okay, I can bait because I know they're going to set me up in the position of the shot that I want. And they're like, yeah, Rachel can bait because we believe in her. She's going to come up with that save. You know, it was like that two-way kind of thing where they played really tight and allowed me to be a little bit more creative. If I had a looser defense or one that wasn't as good and didn't really like force out and stay on people's hands and stuff like that, baiting would just kind of open up a lot more holes, right? So they were so locked down that they allowed me to experiment in that way. And it was really successful. So I think just kind of keeping all that into consideration. I don't know if I opened up more questions by saying that or confused people.
I did see some more questions come in. How do you practice baiting at home or in practice? I mean, is the answer just try it out?
Yeah. I think 8 meters is probably the best place to try it, because for so long, right, it's like, okay, you first start playing and your angles are all off, and then you learn to play, and then you know how to play them properly, or, you know, I'll say properly with air quotes, right, because everybody does it a little different. And then you're going to go in and start baiting. And the easiest thing is to use the lines on the field and stuff like that, and to kind of line up your feet or your body with them and be like, this is where I want to be, and asking your team, you know, what do you see, or an attacker. So the easiest thing to do, I mean, not an attacker on the other team, right? You're probably not going to have that dialogue in a game, but your own teammates. And that's something on an 8 meter that you can easily do and have that kind of a conversation and, you know, have a buddy of yours stand on, you know, the first inside hash and be like, hey, what do you see? And if they say, oh, everything on the right side, and you want to bait, like, that's a really good way for you to see and kind of talk to them about what they like to do on that hash, what you're doing, and where they want to place the ball, and then kind of base your ideas off of that and your own like little experiment, I guess. So 8 meters is probably the best place to do it.
Yeah, interesting. I would say, and I imagine you would agree with this, like you need, if you're just starting out, like you've got to learn arc play straight up before you learn baiting, because, you know, the worst would be to like not learn arc play and then be unintentionally baiting. Like you don't even know you're giving up all that area, right? So, and the 8 meter is a little bit different because it's like a stop play and you can kind of like get set on your arc, as opposed to like continuous play. But definitely before you introduce baiting into your game, like, you know, learn the arc so you can be, you know, splitting the cage 50-50 every time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Jolene says, would love to hear her perspective of a girl goalie working with a boys goalie coach. My daughter's team's coach was trying to prevent my daughter from working with a boy goalie coach, and I had to force my hand since she was so new, didn't know the basics. Is it bad for girl goalies to work with boy goalie coaches is the question.
I don't think it's bad. I think there are some clear-cut differences, right? I've played men's field as a goalie too. Nothing like super high level, just like some club stuff out in California, and, you know, some like the Sound Shore League in the Hudson Valley around me in New York. So nothing like, you know, super competitive, not pro level or anything like that. But there are some differences, and, you know, I've seen some men's goalie coaches, you know, not know about 8 meters, or they're teaching that girls can, you know, step with 1 foot, scoop outside the crease, and then come back in, where that's not allowed, right? So there's some differences. Or they're teaching, you know, 4 seconds from when you clamp down on the ball and you have possession, which is a boys rule, versus 10 seconds from when you make the save in women's. So there's some certain things, or like a term called like churning the butter, when you come off stick and you make that save and then you curl back. That's really a men's thing to get the ball out again in those 4 seconds. So look, if you have somebody that sees the girls' rules and understands it, I think you can learn a lot from it. Just like how I sat and I would watch Scotty Rogers and Galloway, like I watched John Galloway play when they were in college, and I was like, I want to emulate those two styles and play that way, right? I don't think that there's anything wrong with that per se, but just kind of realizing there are some differences, right? He won't know the perspective of 8 meters unless he's hopped in a practice and physically seen them in, in a girls' practice or a college program or anything like that. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I just, it depends on who the coach is and how it works. Like if he works great for your daughter, then that's awesome. It's just kind of like any relationship, really. I guess it just kind of goes from there. But I would just say, like, as long as they know the differences in the two games, then and that's the one thing too that I'm not such a fan of, is it's so different. And at the same time, it's like the same thing too, right? People say that boys' stance is different than a girl's stance. It's honestly, it's all the same thing. Guys are seeing shots from 10 yards out, though. Girls really aren't seeing that, although the game is changing. So it's just like little differences here and there. But as long as he knows how to teach that and is great with that, then it really shouldn't matter. That's the camp I'm in anyway. I don't know. Everyone has their own opinion, though.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Do you play on the NLL standard? Don't know what that means. Is that a team?
So I got some tryouts with with the New York Riptide, the NLL team, and technically I'm a free agent in the NLL. So fingers crossed I could get picked up at any time, which is pretty awesome. And I was invited to the U.S. Elite Combine almost a year now, which is kind of crazy. But in September of last year, and then also the Toronto Combine as well. So just, taking all those opportunities and stuff like that.
Love it.
It's been really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. We hope you get picked up.
Yeah. Thanks. Me too.
Yeah. I should have arranged it to get a phone call. Wait a minute. What's this? Question from Bryn. Do you have tips for a small female goalie and how to get to the corners still stepping forward?
Oh, okay. So I think that's really tough. What I tend to do with younger goalies, because it's really hard. I mean, my personal camp is you look at even box, right? So box, when you're younger, you can even start off like little midgets. I think use not people, by the way. Sorry, midget is it's like hockey. I want to make sure people understand that. So sorry. They use 3x3 nets. You graduate to a 4x4. CLA, which is summer box lacrosse, uses a 4x4x6 net, and the NLL size is a 4x4x9. Again, I don't know why they're all different, but you look at field goalies, and for every single age group, it is a 6x6, and that to me is, I think that's really tough. You look at the NHL, or you look at hockey, and you see that the goal gets sized up as you grow, right? Which I think makes sense. Lacrosse is already so expensive, though, so it would add more money that would need to go into items. But I think that would really be able to benefit a goalie. So I know they sell 5x5 goals. So that's something that can kind of boost somebody's morale. I think looking at the fact that most people aren't going to have a 5x5 net, or honestly, it's not used for games, so why would I have one in the first place? Something that I really like to do with goalies is to just make them feel comfortable and know, you don't need a stick and a ball and all the gear to go and make those saves. So I really like throwing a football at kids, and that's something that they really enjoy, especially if they have brothers or a dad that, or anybody really. I mean, I shouldn't be saying brother, sister, mom, dad, whatever, but somebody that throws a football, they get so excited, and you see them exploding to the ball and doing all these things, and then they just don't do it with a stick because they don't see other people that are that short making those saves, right? So I think that's so hard when you're younger. So I think anything that's not shots can kind of be demoralizing for a smaller, younger goalie that can't get their hands up, because even if they extend their hands all the way, they step to the ball, it's still going to sail over their head and sail over their stick. I mean, it's unfortunate, right? But if you look at them throwing the football at them, they'll jump and they'll make that save, and they'll still get their hands up, or if they watch, NFL football, they'll pretend they're their favorite player. And that's something that has really worked with younger kids. Or I do like the sticky paddles. I don't know what they're really called. They're like the beach toy you can find them at the dollar store, like the little paddle, and then the tennis balls that stick, you can buy them at Petco. And same kind of thing. They get their hands there, they step properly, and they just have to jump to make the save, right? So things like that get them to, not really think about the goal, and then they go in and they feel a little better. I hate to say they'll grow into it, but it is something that, they will grow into it and get better. So just teaching the fundamentals properly, even if they aren't making the saves, it's really tough. But once you get over that hurdle and then they start to grow, it will reap rewards. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Awesome. Can you recommend a goalie pants that offer good protection for the inner thigh? Says Chris.
Ooh, I don't know any actually. I'm trying. Well, you know what? Shock Doctor makes some, I believe. Yeah. So I think Shock Doctor makes some, and they have some padding in the inner thigh. But honestly, I've been getting really creative with like adding extra padding to things. So like for box, for at least for like men's pro, for the NLL, you can't have anything on the outside of your gloves because they believe that it'll help make saves, even if it'll help you protect you from breaking your hand, which I think is the craziest thing. So I'm like coming up with these things. I'm like, okay, what can I like wrap onto my, like, the outside of my hands here, and then stick my glove on and kind of make it work. So I think, if you have people that are really creative at home, or have, some time or anything like that, you can always get like some foam and put that in there. That's something too, to kind of like make your own. I know inner thigh is the absolute worst when you go to make those saves and it skims. It's not really fun. But I believe Shock Doctor makes it. I can't say with 100% certainty because I have not worn padded pants for field in a very long time. But I would definitely look into something from Shock Doctor. I believe that they do.
Cool. Interesting question here. Thoughts on the PLL and how we can learn from it? I assume that comes from a female goalie.
Ooh, all right. I think the PLL, it's really cool. Like looking at the style of the game, it's very, I would say it's like closer to box in a sense of like the finesse and ball movement. So one, I think, I know obviously deep holes are different, right? The things like that, all that stuff is different, but looking at the PLL and where the ball moves, and just watching how goalies, they step, they communicate. You can really hear that now because there's no fans, right? And they mic everybody up. So I think that's something, really just seeing how like in tight everybody is and as a unit, even after not playing together for a while. I mean, if you think about it, what they've only had like a week and a half all together, which is really crazy.
Right.
And they're playing pretty well. So I think the other thing too is just realizing like goalies are human, right? You have goalies that are making tons of saves in a game. They're saving 75% of the shots. And then there's other guys that aren't doing that, but they're still the top goalies in the world, right? And they're really good. And they're extremely talented. And just seeing, what people do and how they fix themselves when they have a bad game. I think that's really huge as well. You can kind of learn that from anything, but obviously the PLL is what's on right now. And those are some things that you can take from it. I mean, there's a lot more. I could chat about this stuff for forever, honestly.
I know. Well, we got time for one more question. Everyone's asking where they can get the replays, and I'll send you guys there's an email that goes out like in an hour or so when I have them all uploaded. So don't worry about that. You'll have that if you signed up for this whole summit. You'll get access to the replays. The last question was, what did you do to get your hands faster?
Ooh. All right. So best drill ever. Okay. I know I said that I had like, the secret sauce of me being a goalie was probably putting, more pressure on one leg versus the other, but probably the best thing that happened to me freshman year in college, and I'll keep it short and sweet because it's almost 10 o'clock at night and everybody's like, all right, it's probably time to go or whatever. But assistant coach at UMass, Sarah Albrecht, bought a bunch of tennis balls in bulk and put X's and O's on them, and tennis racket. And I walked into the office one day, I was like, what is this? And she's literally like, X, O, and the balls are bouncing all over the place. And she's like, oh, this is what we're going to do in 20 minutes. I'll give you a ride over the field. I was like, oh God, what are we doing? And she'd pretend that she's like, which Williams sister should I be today? And she would rally them from the 8 and the 12. So she'd start at the 12 and then she'd move to the 8. And when I got used to it more and more, she'd give me a shaft. She's like, here you go. You're going to make the saves. And at first I was like, they were whizzing by me. And this was after I was on U19 and all this stuff. And like, just to me in my head, I was like, this is demoralizing. It probably wasn't, but to me inside, I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. This is, this is crazy. Like I can make saves. I'm a good goalie. What's going on? And she's like, okay, breathe, take your time. She's like, just try to hit it with the little top part of the shaft. You got it. And it probably took like 5 times, like tries. And then all of a sudden I hit one. And then more and more, she's like, okay, now you're hitting them. Now read what's on the ball. Tell me if it's X or O. And things like that, as crazy as it sounds, like it got better and I got a lot faster. That was probably the safer thing that I did before all that happened. And my coaches realized that they needed to like take some extra time to get my hands a little bit quicker. I went into a practice and I was not making saves at all. And so I told my coach, I said, hey, I'm just going to hop in without a stick. And she just looked at me and was like, are you serious? I was like, yep. It's just no stick, nothing. And I'm just hands. And when I made a save, she's like, why did you do that? I was like, because if I can make a save with my hands and I don't have a stick, there is some hope for me. And because I struggled, if you're kind of catching the conversation, I struggled a little bit from high school to college play. I played a lot wider. I would sit lower, and we had seniors that were whizzing the ball past my head at 75 miles an hour. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work. There needs to be like a Rachel 2.0, and we have to fix some stuff. So part of like going from transitioning from Rachel 1.0 to 2.0 was, this lovely thought that popped into my head of, I'm not going to use a stick in practice, and I'm just going to use my hands and step to the ball and see what happens. And then when that went really well, I was like, okay. And then I grabbed the stick and I started making saves, and the coaches were like, well, if that's what it took, then I'm not sure why we didn't start that earlier. But, that was kind of the unsafe. I don't recommend doing that, by the way, because this was in like shooting drills. We were like ripping it from the 8. We were doing question mark dodges and the girls were just ripping it. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just go, just hands. I had gloves, but still, open palm. So not the safest, but tennis ball drill, somebody to rally them at you pretty fast, definitely works wonders. Safer option.
Love it. Rachel, thank you so much. What do you guys think about that? Was that good? Let me know in the chat. Do you want to, well, first of all, thank you very much for doing this. This was awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Awesome sauce. Thank you for sharing your secret sauce. Your 2 secret sauces. Everyone's asking for more. So it is 10 o'clock at night. I want to say thank you so much, Rachel, for coming on. Thank you everyone for attending the summit. You want to drop the details again where people can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Hold on. Let me see. Am I sharing? I don't think I'm sharing my screen. Hold on.
No, not yet.
Let's see. Hold on. I promise I know how to use this. I'm young. I should be tech savvy, right? All right. There you go, everybody.
I don't think you're sharing yet.
Oh, Jesus. All right, hold on. We're there. Hold on.
Okay, there we go. Awesome. I'll give people a second to write that down if you need. That'll do it for the Lacrosse Goalie Virtual Summit. We closed it out in style, closed it out with the sauce. Rachel, thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you.
Thank you.
Take care.